If you've ever painted a watercolor tree that has turned out flat, patchy, blobby, or just plain wrong, then this painting challenge is for you. Right, Satsu? Welcome to the Watercolor Trees and Foliage Challenge. This is a 7-day painting experience designed to help you paint loose and expressive watercolor trees in spring, summer, autumn, and winter, all 4 seasons. And you're going to end this landscape by painting a full summer landscape that heroes your tree. Plus, there are little assignments every day and one final really exciting assignment. Are you ready? But hold up. If you're someone who saves tutorials for, later, but you never actually get to it, this is not just yet another YouTube tutorial playlist. It's actually a whole creative experience that's designed to help you actually finish what you start in this challenge. Here's what you're going to get in this action-oriented challenge. 1, you're going to get my favorite rave-reviewed tree tutorials from my membership vault. You'll get daily lessons on value, shadow, and atmosphere so that your trees feel alive. And you're going to get simple, joyful assignments every day that are going to take less than an hour, some even less than 30 minutes. But none of these require any perfectionism. Okay, listen, the key to getting the most out of this challenge is to focus on action, not outcome. We want to remove all friction and we want to make it really super simple on you so that you can get your brush moving again, whether you're a total beginner or you're returning to your creative practice after a really long break. We're going to keep it fun but sustainable. However, you do have to show up and learn and actually paint. And to help you follow through, along with these tutorial series, you'll also get a 7-day companion email series for that much needed accountability as well as bonus tips. So make sure you're opening all the emails that come with this challenge because they're packed with value and they're going to give you some important stuff that you're going to need. You'll also get a detailed workbook with this with my updated supplies list because I don't want you to watch my videos and then wonder why your paints are not blending on the paper like mine are. In the emails, you will also get access to our free Blue Pine Arts Creative Club Facebook group where you can share your results and you can cheer each other on because this group is full of heart-led watercolor enthusiasts just like you. And if you tag us on Instagram stories, at Blue Pine Arts, I'll leave it over here, then you get a chance to be featured on our Instagram stories because we love featuring our community's work. So if you want the full experience, then go sign up with the link in the description. So right away, your first action step is to look at your calendar for the next 7 to 14 days and block out an hour of time every day so that you can go through this challenge with me. You might want to watch the tutorial videos first, understand how I'm teaching it, and then go ahead and make your assignment painting. But the idea is for you to do it in a way that works with your rhythm, okay? Okay, now that you know what's coming, I want to share a quick story with you. Come here. Do you want to know a little secret? It was 2016. I was 24 and I was really burnt out with my ID job and I was going to quit it with no backup plan. So with this full-blown quarter-life crisis that I was apparently having, I remember it was a really hot summer day in May in India and my cousin was visiting and she had a really nice watercolor set and some Kulinski sable brushes. And just out of sheer boredom, one afternoon, I borrowed her supplies, and because I had no idea what watercolors even are, how to even use them, I just opened up a YouTube tutorial and I painted a watercolor tree. And because I accidentally happened to pick up that box of, watercolor paints and painted a tree is the whole reason why I became an artist. And I still remember in that moment where I first touched the paint to the water, wet in wet, and the pigment just whooshed into the water, I felt something crack open in me, And it sparked a joy in my burnt out eldest daughter heart that was just so tired of following everybody else's best plan for my life. So I did this wild thing where I followed that spark of joy, and this is where it led me today. Fast forward so many years later, here I am living my life as a full-time artist in the Canadian Rockies, in the mountains here. And it is watercolors. It's my art that allowed me to even move from India to Canada. And so I live here as a full-time artist. I run my own handmade art supplies boutique business. I have taught over 45,000 students how to paint with watercolors with joy and liberation. I host my art retreats. I mentor other artists who want to launch their art courses. So I'm living this life, this quiet, slow, creative life where I get to call my own shots and I get to have full control over my schedule. And this life is really sweet and rewarding. And so I created this watercolor trees and foliage challenge for you because I know how powerful painting something as simple as a watercolor tree can be. So this challenge is my way of helping you find that spark within you, or maybe even reignite that spark if you've taken a little break from watercolor painting. So today is day one and it's all about setting up your watercolor supplies. You're about to watch a quick walkthrough of all the supplies that I used from this class that I pulled out from my watercolor membership vault, kind of like Taylor Swift pulling out songs from her vault. But I do want to add a little note about the watercolor palette that you're going to see in the following tutorials and at the end of this video. See, when I filmed this class that you're going to watch, I used to use an older palette that was mostly informed by one of my teachers, Sergei Kurbatov. But since then, my color choices have evolved a lot, basically from all my own personal experiments that I did and all the growth that I've had in discovering new techniques and developing new tools. So these days, I pretty much use my Trupti Signature 24 palette, and that one is going to look a little different, and you'll actually see it in action in the Winter Trees tutorial that's coming up in this challenge. So to help you sort of understand how I use my colors, at the end of this video, I've added a little addendum showing you what my color choices are like and why I chose them. So make sure you stick till the end of the video to find out how I curated my ultimate mixing palette. And if you're like, I need links, Trupti, I need to know like where did you get this palette from, then don't worry. Just make sure you sign up for the whole challenge experience in the description so that you get the companion workbook. That's going to have all of my views on how to choose the right tools and supplies for your watercolor journey, wherever it is that you are. And it's also going to have all the direct links in it. But the point is to start with what you have, and then once you finish the challenge, then you can decide to upgrade if you want. All right? Okay, let's dive right in. Because we're going to focus on a subject that is so close to my heart, because it was literally the first thing that I've ever painted in watercolors. And this subject made me fall in love with this amazing medium, and that is beautiful watercolor trees. So hang tight, guys. This class is going to be very exciting and also very valuable because trees are an essential part of a landscape, of course. And learning how to paint one which looks loose and yet natural and 3D is a very important skill to master in watercolor landscapes. Today I'm going to be using only two brushes essentially. The first one is a 2/0 Tintoretto quill brush or a mop brush. Hold on, let me focus this. Okay. A 2/0 mop brush. But if you don't have a mop or a quill brush of this size, you can just use a regular round brush like a Princeton Neptune size 10. Okay. And the one brush that's going to give you a lot of benefit, especially when you're painting trees and landscapes, is a rigger brush. So this is my size 1 silver black velvet rigger brush or a script brush. And the interesting history behind these kind of brushes is they were designed to paint the rigger lines of ships in the olden days. And so notice how the brush hair, okay, let me just wet this so you can see. Okay, notice how the brush hair are long. So this brush has a mind of its own. So when you want to have tree branches that look really natural, this is the brush you want to go for. And also when you want to paint like swift straight lines, this brush makes it so much easier, and it's really hard to explain as well. So once you have this brush, your own brush, you'll understand what I mean. Another brush that I might use is this Princeton 1-inch flat brush. It's a Princeton Neptune brush, and this I'm gonna use for just for wetting my paper, the sky, and all of that kind of stuff. I probably am also gonna use a pencil and an eraser, so just have that on standby. Okay, coming to the papers, I am going to be using my Blue Pine Arts 200 GSM cold press rough paper, and I really love this paper because it has this beautiful rough texture, and this is going to come in really handy when we're going to use the dry brushing technique. And I love using these single sheets from the paper packs that we have, just because I can make like different studies and also whole landscapes on these papers. So these are the papers I'll be using. I also have like a smaller sheet just to test a few color swatches and to show you guys what colors I'll be using, which I'll do so in the next segment. As a backing board, I'm using this foam board or a foam core, and I really love this because it provides a stiff backing to my paintings, but also it's really lightweight for me to handle it while I'm painting. A masking tape, of course, some paper towels, a jar of water, a big jar of water, and lastly, let's take a look at the colors that we'll be using. Now, before I point out the specific colors that I'm going to use for today's class, if you guys want a quick rundown of all the colors that are in my custom Mijello airtight palette, I'm happy to give it to you right now. So let's go through all these colors real quick. So this is cadmium lemon yellow light, Naples yellow deep, yellow ochre, cadmium orange, cadmium red light, quinacridone rose, ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, chrome oxide green, sap green, olive green from Old Holland. But I also have another olive green here by White Nights, and these two are very different colors. Indian red, burnt sienna, burnt umber, Van Dyke brown, indigo, Trupti's gray, and I also have like a few odd colors here on the side. So this one is Aquarius green. Oh, sorry, Hooker's green by Roman Schmall, such a beautiful color. This one is called May green by White Nights. I love this color a lot. Again, olive green by White Nights and cobalt teal blue by White Nights. So in most of the tutorial series, you're gonna see an older palette that I used to use till about 2022, I think. And this is my Mijello Mission Airtight palette. I actually quite love this palette. It served me really well. It looks different now, a lot emptier because I actually cleaned it. And it had different colors from different brands like White Nights. This is Case for Making. This is Blue Pine Arts. Some of them were from Old Holland that I actually finished up. And then some of these are Blue Pine Arts colors. This one is actually Roman Small. Now, if you are confused with the brand names and the list and all of this stuff, then don't worry. First things first, you will find a list of all the brands, the colors, pigment codes, everything inside of the companion workbook. So make sure you have clicked the link in the description, joined the entire challenge experience and got the workbook. And I'm sure you're also like, Trupti, can we at least see the swatches of these colors that you used in the tutorials? Don't worry, I got you. So this palette, before I cleaned it up and I retired it, I recorded it in my large Blue Pine Arts notebook, which by the way, this is my limited edition Blue Pine Arts notebook covered with Banarasi silk sari, which is so cool. And inside of this sketchbook, I actually recorded this palette. See? And so this is what the swatches look like. And I also noted exactly the brand colors that I was using. And don't worry, you don't have to pause the video or anything. This list is there inside of the companion workbook that comes with this. And you'll also see what I shared here. It says, a faithful plein air palette 2019 to 2022. This was my plein air palette and a staple studio palette for many years. It started with color suggestions from my watercolor teacher, Sergei Kurbatov. Shout out to him. When we went to his retreat in Tuscany in 2019. Over the years, I added a few colors to it and used it as a studio staple till I moved to Canada. And so this is the palette. I love recording my palettes like this. So you'll find the entire list in the companion workbook. And if you're asking, well, Trupti, how did your palette evolve? So since 2022, I've explored a lot more, and I removed a few colors and I added a few colors. And that is how my Trupti's signature 24 palette was born. Now this is the exact 24 colors I use, and this is pretty much the only palette I use actually in all my paintings and also in all my tutorials these days. Again, the colors in this palette are listed in the companion workbook, but if you're curious about the swatches, this is what they look like. I really love this selection of colors because this is the ultimate mixing palette, and you will see why. First things first, I've got my warm and cool primaries here. So my cool primaries are the lemon yellow, the Quin Gulal, and the Indus blue, and also like cobalt teal and cerulean sky. And my warm primaries are the Alfonso yellow, which is a warm yellow, the Scarlet Ibis, which is a warm fire engine red, and the warm blues are cobalt blue and butterfly pea ultramarine. And so right away you get a really good balance of, a really great mixing range because of these primaries. But you know what? I also really dislike mixing some of my convenience colors. So that's why I have convenience colors like the Hobbs orange, which is just such a juicy, lush orange. And then I've got other pre-mixed secondary colors that I really love, like the moss green. Some similarities from Sergey's palette is this beautiful chromium oxide green. He uses this a lot, and I find it super valuable in my landscapes as well because I really love some colors that have opacity. So I have this, I have the phthalo green, because this along with these colors lets me mix any kind of transparent as well as granulating greens. I have an awesome range of earths. So I have yellow ochre, I have raw sienna, because when you mix raw sienna and cobalt blue, you don't get green. And then of course, I've got some stunning granulating browns, like this dark club hematite. Like, check out the granulation on that. I love painting my rocks, and the soil, the color of the mud in the Canadian Rockies is actually like this. Then there's the burnt umber. Instead of burnt sienna, I actually really prefer the Venetian red. We call it Chinar red in Blue Pine Arts. This is an awesome granulating brown as well. And I've just got the most stunning selection of blues because you can never have enough blues. And I've also got 3 dead useful neutrals. So I've got the Trupti's gray, which is your paints gray, and you can see what color this color looks like. Then I've got Trupti's indigo, and I've also got this stunning eggplant purple, which is a really high chroma gray that is a good replacement for neutral tint if you've heard about it. Now, if you want to know how these colors mix, this is what they mix like. Now, I hate making color wheels and color charts. This is how my ADHD brain explores colors. And so I just love just laying out colors and mixing it with different things. And then I love finding out different combinations. So this is just a sample of the mixing range, but I'm going to put a picture here of the incredible mixing range that you get with my Trupti Signature 24 palette. Now, apart from these 24 colors, I also really love using some pastels. And these are again convenience colors. This one is not a pastel, but these 4 are. And they play a huge role when I paint atmospheric skies, like this one, for example. So there's a little bit of an opacity when you paint with pastel colors, and they just add a sort of softness to your paintings that transparent colors just cannot achieve. So, you know that rule where they say don't use white paint in your watercolors? I actually don't believe in that. A little bit of white pigment, even you can use, you can mix some white gouache with your transparent watercolor paints like this and create pastels. However, if you want pre-mixed pastels, because I use these quite a lot, so I'm gonna find it really annoying to mix these colors with white gouache every time. I've listed the exact pastel colors I use, including the pigment code, so you know exactly what's in your paint, the light fastness, all of that stuff inside of the companion workbook, so go look for it. And in case you're wondering, what does your palette actually looks like, Trupti, then this is the state of my Trupti Signature 24 palette, but with full pans. And I really prefer full pans because number one, they're so much easier to pick up paint with large brushes, and that's what I use when I make my big, large watercolor landscapes. And secondly, the paint just lasts forever. I've been using this same palette since 2023, and you can see just how full it is. The only pan that I ran out is my cobalt blue, and that's because I just use it so much in my paintings. But the rest of the colors, they're lasting me forever, and I've made hundreds of paintings with this one. And so this one here is, you know, this is how it's probably going to look like when you order it and when you open it for the first time. The only the only pan that I'm missing in this one is the hops orange, which is in this palette right here. Do you see this little half pan of orange? So that's hops orange, and I also use it so much. And in case you're wondering, like, Trupti, why are your paint pans looking weird? Why has the paint sort of curled up like this? That's because I live in one of the driest places on earth. So Calgary, the Canadian Rockies are super, super dry. So because there's honey in this paint, your paint will either be a little bit sticky and tacky if you're living in super humid areas, but if you live in dry areas, then your paint is gonna become hard like this. Just because they're hardened doesn't mean the paint doesn't come off. Because there's honey in it, it's really easy to lift the paint off of these hardened, gnarly looking cakes. And I actually really like it because this gives my palette so much more character. So go find all of these colors, including my previous palette and all the direct links to it inside of the companion workbook. Okay, one last thing. I get a lot of questions about how do you travel with your watercolor brushes without damaging them? And I use my trusty brush roll, and this is how I store my brushes. And you'll see how each of these brushes is beautifully protected, and I've literally traveled with these brushes from India to Canada, and there's been no damage. This is literally the first silver black velvet brush that I ever got in 2017. So it's been like what, 7-8 years since then. And I also keep my tube of white gouache. I have all my travel brushes in this. See that? And I've got my drawing pen in this. So this is how I travel with my watercolor brushes when I'm going plein air painting or when I'm flying internationally with them. This is it. All right, now that you know what supplies to use, watch the next video on how to paint an easy summer tree. I'll see you in the next video.